Hi everyone, thanks for joining us today at our lovely book launch for our anthology, Tell 'Em He's Dreamin'. I'm Kate Duncan. I've got one of the ballads inside this book, which I thought I'd share with you because it's a beautiful story. Beautiful story about a beautiful man and his beautiful shed. It's called Burn, Lantana, Burn. You ready for it? Let's get cracking. Here it goes. Dazza built a bonza shed out near Boonaroo. He really did a bang-up job, all his angles true. When hauling in his brewing gear, he popped his disc L3. Falling down upon the ground, cried, "Missus, please help me." So burn, Lantana, burn. Burn, Lantana, burn. Posies of colour, denying all others to take up some turf in their turn. So burn, Lantana, burn. Umpteen months the shed just stood, unloved yet still pristine. Below the surface, alive with purpose, Lantana roots unseen. Daz had kept that beast at bay, now poison went unspent. And Christmas came Lantana's way, and up the walls she went. Latching to the windowsills and clinging to the eaves, Lantana claimed man's cave that day with flowers, thorns and leaves. Burn, Lantana, burn. Burn, Lantana, burn. Posies of colour, denying all others to take up some turf in their turn. So burn, Lantana, burn. Wheelchair bound our Dazza found tears that fell anew. His shed was lost behind thick thorns, and now his mood was too. His missus took a trip to Bunnings and got herself a blade. She slashed and slashed at long thin stems, but little dent was made. Burn, Lantana, burn. Burn, Lantana, burn. Posies of colour, denying all others to take up some turf in their turn. So burn, Lantana, burn. The black dog sat with Dazza daily, so Mrs. upped the game. She siphoned petrol from the ute, accelerant for flame. She took a match, she lit it up, the fire was alive. Flames danced and dined on wooden vine, no chance it would survive. Come the dawn, the weed was gone. Alas, the shed was too. But Dazza grinned, he'd build again, and blue scope steel would do. So burn, Lantana, burn. Come on, sing it with me, everyone. Burn, Lantana, burn. Posies of colour, denying all others to take up some turf in their turn. So burn, burn, Lantana, burn. But don't go trying that one at home. Thanks for joining me, everyone, and have a great rest of the day enjoying the rest of the authors that are coming on here for this beautiful book launch. Have a beautiful day.
Campfire crackles, ripsticks curl. Campfire crackles, camp oven simmers, coals pulse, embers glow. Hearty bushman stew, rump steak, scrubbed potatoes, chopped celery, sliced carrots, diced onions, all basting in a storm of flavours. 2 pinchful of grated ginger and 1 secret ingredient to sweeten. Campfire, savoury stew, wafting, weaving, up to the timber deck, to 3 kids playing on ripsticks. Slimline mini skateboards, bottoms neatly fit into its scoop deck, legs out straight, hand steer on floor. Ripsticks wind round veranda obstacle course on pivoting 360 casters. A cry goes up, "Let's race! First one gets beef stew." Take your positions. 3, 2, "Come and set the table," yells Mum. 1, go! 1 ripstick's curl swerves right at lounge. 3 riders race down straight past outdoor dining table. 1 rider must take corner first. Hands roll, pull, roll. Ripstick speed forward. Floorboards grumble. Right hand, left hand, pull. Corner of table coming up fast. No one's backing off. Youngest rider lifts hand to oldest, power on. Shoulder to shoulder. One has to back off soon. No one breathes. Only one can take the corner first. "Back off!" yells the youngest. "At least bring down the spoons." Mum calls. Lean in right, turn, turn, turn. Both riders turn in parallel. Outside rider works harder. Big pull, right hand, lean right, slight nudge. Oh! Inside rider loses 1/10 of a second. Outside rider leads straight on. You did that on purpose, yells inside rider. Yeah, well you were too. Bring down the glasses, calls Mum. Come on, yells the youngest. All three scramble back on ripsticks. Prepare for the chase. I'm being chased by the police. You're going the wrong way. Winning rider speeds off yelling, goodbye, muchacha. Youngest falls off ripstick. Now she's on foot, chasing other two. Red light, red light. I said red light. What does that mean? It means stop. But no one stops. Bring down the soup bowls, Mum calls. Did you see that? I delayed the officer. Reverse, reverse, reverse. 2 ripsticks slide sideways. 2 run stickless. Don't try and trip me. Halt! What are you doing? Back on ripsticks, yells youngest. Swerving, turning, near missing. Crash! Collision. Legs, arms, ripsticks tangle. Dad yells. Grubs on! First one down gets duffel beef stew. I'm first, yells the youngest. No, I'm first. No, I'm first. Push, shove, legs, arms untangle, ripsticks flung to side. 3 kids line up, bowls in one hand, warm damper in the other. Dad scowls. Mum taps a foot. Youngest glides forward. Thick beef stew. As campfire crackles.
My name's Fiona Lloyd, and this is my original poem, a bush ballad for children called The Ballad of Uncle Bill. It was winter at the station on the road to Rusty Hill, when Sly Jones arrived from Big Smoke to call on Uncle Bill. He gave a shake and shiver as the cart pulled down the track.
It's colder here than Big Smoke, but I'm never going back.
The cart, it rolled and rattled. Sly Jones, he groaned and cried. The bullocks sniffed and snorted when the driver whipped their sides. They jolted over cattle grids till bones ached blue and black, then passed through Dead Man's Graveyard to the door of Bill's tin shack.
G'day, said Bill. Good day, said Sly. They shook each other's hand. What brings a bloke like you, Bill said, from Big Smoke to this land? Perhaps a cup of tea first, said Sly Jones to Uncle Bill, before we get to matters of my late Aunt Jessie's will.
So the fire was burnt to ashes, and the billy long gone cold, when Jessie's will had told its tale of how the shack was sold. And Uncle Bill had counted,
but I won it fair and square, in a wager with the shearer at the annual country fair.
At the crowning of the sunrise in the shack near Rusty Hill, Sly Jones awoke to birdsong with his stomach all a-thrill, for the new life he'd imagined when the builders came to town, and the fun he'd have in Rusty Hill with Uncle's shack pulled down.
Alone in Dead Man's Graveyard, where the gum trees mine the land, old Bill sat still with half a tear, and weary head in hand. The shearer's broken promise, how he'd sold Bill's shack for gold, had got him down and wondering why the shearer never told.
But Uncle Bill was more than tear, and more than gold or lie, and up he jumped and wiped his eye and gave a battle cry. And through the bush he tripped and traipsed with holler, coo and yell, for the friends he'd made in Rusty Hill to take Sly Jones to hell. Came Prickly Joe Echidna, eager emus, cockatoos, magpies, snakes and huntsmen, and a mob of kangaroos. They made a plan to help the man they knew as Uncle Bill, who had fed them fair and plenty from his shack near Rusty Hill. It was 2 weeks Sunday morning, when the ground was damp with dew, that all agreed with hand on heart the plan had been thought through. And one by one they gathered on the road to Rusty Hill, to send bad Sly a-packing from the house of dear old Bill. Across the sill the huntsman crawled to where Jones lay in bed. With giant legs and fearful grin across Sly's face he spread. And Prickly Joe was waiting, spines a-quiver by the door. to spike the toes of bad Sly Jones when he jumped from bed to floor. The scream Sly Jones emitted could be heard from far and wide. It gave the signal loud and clear to the animals outside. And one by one they took their turn to help their dear friend Bill to save his shack from bad Sly Jones and Auntie Jessie's Will. They chased him to the graveyard where the bones of men lay dead, and begging for his freedom, he repealed the words he'd said. "Dear Bill, old chap, the shack is yours, and I renounce my claim. Call kangatoos and cockaroos to end this crazy game." "Fair play," winked Bill. "My mates and I will miss you all the same, but you'd better get a move on to catch that big smoke train." So Emu chased Sly down the hill with belly all a drum, and beat the sound that went around to say that they had won. Now Uncle Bill's been dead and gone for 50 years or more, but the story of his victory is written on the door. Of time gone by since Big Smoke Sly, who came to Rusty Hill to steal the shack that mates gave back to my dear old Uncle Bill.
Love at First Sight by Frances Prentice. That's me. Long ago I was shiny, my paperwork brand new. I sat in a showroom in town, when in came a young bloke with cash in his hand. He saw me and slapped it all down. It was love at first sight for a bloke and his ute. We drove off up the road with a roar. Then out on the highway he opened me up with my throttle held down to the floor. A honeymoon suite, polished each week, not a speck of dirt left on the floor. We picked up his girl to take her for a whirl, never knowing what next was in store. The wedding bells rang as they came down the steps. Confetti swirled into the air. I was spruced up a treat for a getaway meet, some tin cans applauding our pair. For the next year or two, they fixed up the nest, and many a hay bale we threw to the cattle so keen in some country not green, waiting for storms to brew. Then with the rain, new life came again, young cattle grazing the field, and his missus so sweet also swelled in the heat, who knew what the new year would yield. One day we were out just poking about, when we spotted a car with a sign, a wagon sedate, sure she'd do for a mate, so his wife drove her home, that was fine. Then with a wail came a lusty young male, and I was abandoned, it's true. They say three's a crowd, was the third one so loud, I was glad to be built for just two. Well, over the years I saw blood, sweat and tears as we scrambled through ditches and scrub, and my paintwork wore thin, nearly through to the tin, and my tyres were worn down to the hub. But we were still mates, the old bloke and I, and both the boys thought I was beaut. And when they grew tall, they both had a bull down the paddock they'd bash in Dad's ute. Well, we scraped the odd fence post and hit the odd roo, but a ute is for work, not for looks. And the dints in my side, well, they brought their own pride. The country is no place for sooks. Then the boys were men, they'd gone off again. It was just the old codger and me. But he'd bought a new ute, she was shiny, real beaut. So he turned me out back to be free. Well, I cooked in the sun and I cried in the rain, but those skies, what a sight in the dawn. And my tyres let go, I just settled real slow, part of the landscape forlorn. But then came the day that the Grandies did stay, and they dragged Grandad over to see. the rusty old ute that they thought was real beaut, and they played there with me.
Hi, I'm Mark Gibbs, and I'd like to read you my poem, Bush Ballad. It's time to tell a bush tale of creatures wild and free, of Aussie male and female that meet beneath the tree. Kangaroos come bounding in, the python slithers, slides, the kookaburra cackles with a din, a possum gracefully glides. From bracken swamp comes salty croc, his billabong mates come too. Ahead is brown striped frog, tick-tock, and wombat eating stew. Each of the animals finds their way beneath the old gum tree to hear and have their personal say, a rich diversity. From brush turkey bickers at the verse, a ballad for the night. The rumble grows a little worse, the animals begin to fight. Dingo howls, kangaroo thumps, sugar glider breaks free. Sand goanna sprints and jumps at spiky devil up the tree. Sit down, bush creatures, don't take flight. It's about a sunburnt country, a verse that brings us pure delight, majestic lands for you and me. Lorikeet and dingo too, listen to the rhyme. Kangaroo plays a didgeridoo while others tap in time. I love her sweeping landscapes, I love her jewel seas, her beauty, hiss the snakes, in slithering harmony. I'm much too busy, says Bandicoot, his long nose quite absurd. Magpie declares it's rather cute to hear the power of words. Moonlight is a rippled sea as animals fall asleep. Snuggle close beneath the tree, eyes shut without a peep. Good night, bush creatures young and old. The speckled stars play tune. Heaven shines a brilliant gold. It will be morning soon.
Hi, I'm Maura Pierlow. I'd like to read you my play On the Farm, which appears in this wonderful anthology, Tell 'em They're Dreaming, Bedtime Ballads and Tall Tales from the Australian Bush. My poem is based on a true story. I moved to Australia nearly 30 years ago from New York City after I met an Aussie farmer and shearer who I ended up marrying. Here we go. On the farm. My cousins were coming to visit our farm. Just city meets country, no need for alarm. The moment I heard a loud engine, then doors, I ran out the back and abandoned my chores. We're finally here. That car trip was too long, my cousins insisted, and they were not wrong. Out came the esky, their bags and a ball, a cricket set, longboards, then more gear to haul. Hey, where are the sheep? All my cousins did ask. To them, sheep are toys, but for us, they're a task. They're out in the paddock, I said, near the shed. You're shearing, they blurted, and ran off ahead. My dad had just finished his last shearing run and put down his handpiece to greet everyone. Sweat dripped down his brow as some beaded on mine. My auntie just smiled, said the heat was divine. You hungry? Dad asked. I can round up a lamb or pig, he suggested, if you prefer ham. The mouths on my cousins dropped down to their chins with awkward new thoughts about how meat begins. Then just as the sun was beginning to set, tomorrow, the mowing, Mum said, don't forget. The eyes of my cousins popped open real wide at grass all around the far acres they spied. You mow with a ride-on, we'll help you, okay? But not with a push one, we'd be here all day. I wanted to trick them, but had too much heart. The sheep eat all that, we just mow this one part. Thank goodness, they shouted as Mum called out, tea! That's dinner, I told them. Smells good, but we'll see. We washed our hands twice before taking a seat. The veggies were served and then 2 types of meat. The looks on their faces showed dread and dismay. My cousins unable to find words to say. They eyed our new dog, hoping she'd snatch the meat, but there was too much for a young pup to eat. Remember your visit, they asked? Just last year? How could I forget such a strange atmosphere? I'd never seen so many cars, I explained, or people and pets in one city contained. And right in that moment I knew we're the same. When out of our comfort zone, no one's to blame. I looked at their meat, which I snuck from my plate, but ate it too quickly and needed to wait. I munched on their ham, then I took a 3rd chop. They smiled as I chewed. There was no time to stop. My cousins' jaws dropped and their eyes opened wide. Their plates were now empty, with no food to hide. My, you're good eaters, Mum said to us all. Have some more meat so you'll grow nice and tall. No, I cried out. There was no time to waste. I'd eaten so much my taste buds couldn't taste. We need to save room for dessert, I tricked Mum. She nodded, amazed we could fit in a crumb. And then I remembered, they're here for a week. 6 more cousin dinners, a meat-eating streak. Thanks for listening. Check out the link to order your copy of the anthology today. Hope you enjoy it.
Septic Tank Swim Team, written by Annalise Bird. The smell hits me as soon as I get off the school bus. The septic tank guy must be at our house today. I flick my ponytail over my shoulder and trudge up the driveway, breathing through my mouth. It doesn't work. The smell seeps in through my tonsils and sweat. All day, I've been desperate to get home and play with our kittens. Our farm cat, Mischief, has 3 this time. They're 8 weeks old, and they sleep in a box on our back veranda. I know my time with them is running out. Mum's already put an ad in the paper to give them away, so I've been playing with them as much as possible. But the septic stench puts me off that idea today. City kids wouldn't know about septic tanks. When they flush the toilet, the contents get whisked away to the water treatment plant and they never have to think about it again. Easy peasy. But country
Until
kids...
they have just...
But country kids, well, we know it only goes as far as the small concrete tank sunk into our backyard. Sure, the bacteria in the tank do their thing, but the goopy stuff at the bottom still needs pumping out every year or 2. I probably don't need to tell you where the watery stuff goes. There's a reason the grass is always greenest around the septic tank. When I reach the house, Dad and the septic tank guy are chatting beside the truck. The lid's already off the tank. That explains the smell. But they haven't started pumping yet. We'll give them away, then hightail it inside. Mum's in the kitchen. She hands me a snack and asks about my day. Then she breaks the news. A lady called about my ad, Jamie. She's coming to look at the kittens in an hour. I drop my snack and run outside. I don't want to waste a single minute. Only an hour left with the kittens? I'll just have to put up with the smell. I hurry to their box in the corner of the veranda. They're not there. I look around, checking all the usual spots. They're not lapping at their milk bowl. They're not napping on the path. They're not scampering around the clothesline. Then I hear it. A tiny meow. And 2 more. Meow. I look further into the backyard. Mischief is standing on top of the septic tank, her tail twitching worriedly. She's looking down at something in the middle of the septic tank. The round lid of the tank is lying in the lush grass nearby. I sprint over. I stare down through the opening. At first, all I see is a circle of oily brown sludge surrounded by shadow. Then they paddle into view. Meow! 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 Mum! I shriek. Dad! The kittens are in the septic tank! Mum erupts from the house. Dad and the septic tank guy rush over. The 4 of us, plus Mischief, gaze down into the tank as the 3 kittens doggy paddle around their porridgey pool of poo. For a moment, we're all frozen. Then Mischief dips an experimental paw through the opening. She pulls her paw back. Aboard! Dad gasps. He runs off towards the shed. Mum wrings her hands. Gloves! She exclaims, dashing back into the house. The septic tank guy just stares into the hole with his mouth hanging open. Meow! 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 I can't stand it any longer. I don't care about the smell. I don't care about the poo. I don't care about my white school shirt. I only care about the kittens. I lie down on my stomach, my head over the hole. I reach into the tank, trying not to gag. The black and white kitten swims towards me. I pinch the scruff of his neck and pluck him out of the sludge. He curls up and I plop him into the grass beside the tank. I lean over the hole again. I grab the ginger kitten. I lift her out of the tank and place her beside her brother. Mischief sniffs them, but doesn't seem to know what else to do. Mum and Dad return, rubber gloves and wooden board in hand. I smile smugly to myself. I'm doing fine without them. I haven't even got any poo on my fingers. I reach into the tank one more time. The little tabby kitten is paddling around the edge, almost out of reach. She's going at an awesome pace. She'd be unbeatable in the Cat Olympics. I lean in as far as I dare. Janie, use this! Dad tries to angle the board through the hole. It catches my ponytail. The ends of my hair splash down into the poo. I jerk my head up. My slimy ponytail flicks across my mouth. Blah! I spit. I try to sit up. My hand misses the edge of the hole. I flop sideways, hitting my shoulder on the rim. My arm splashes down into the tank. The little supercharged swim champ crashes into my arm. I scoop her up. I struggle upright and cuddle her to my chest. For a moment, there's silence. Then Dad and the septic tank guy break into applause. Mum flaps the gloves weakly and mumbles something about my white school shirt. Then she starts clapping too. I have poo in my hair, poo in my mouth, poo up my arm. My shoulder hurts. I stink, and I feel like a hero. An hour later, the lid is back on the tank. The truck is gone. The posh city lady who comes for the kittens likes the little tabby one the best. She cradles her against her cheek and inhales her fluffy, freshly shampooed fur. She raves on and on about how fantastic she smells. I'll take her, she says. But how did you get her to smell so amazing? I shrug. Just fresh country air, I say, and I kiss the little tabby goodbye.
A few years ago I was at a poetry reading and a man stood up and recited, rather than reading his own work, he recited some of the works of Banjo Paterson. And he started, I can't remember, but I think it was the man from Ironbark. And as he started halfway through, he suddenly realised he didn't know the whole poem as well as he thought. He went, oh no, how's it go? Oh no. So then he thought, oh well, I might as well try another poem. So he thought he'd try Mulga Bill's Bicycle, got halfway through that, and exactly the same thing happened. So I quickly grabbed a pencil and I started penning on a napkin with a pencil this. And it's called, in honour of Banjo Paterson, Forgetting How the Banjo Works. Oh no, how's it go? That poem I forgot. It went something, I forgot the flamin' lot. It had bits about some bicycle that grew a bushy beard. Or was it a bearded cyclist? It's completely disappeared. Oh, how's it go? It's an epic verse. But I forgot to bring it. I should have set it all to music. I'd recall it if I sing it. There's a tucker box below a dog, but that part I forget. It goes something like, the dog on top had come from old regret. But some of it, I must admit, I've deliberately erased. It's irrational, illogical, and absolutely crazed. And the man from Snowy River let the pony have his head? Well, if he gave his head away, how come he isn't dead? There's bits about a jolly bloke who went waltzing with Matilda, a sheep who rode upon his back, apparently, and he killed her. I've forgotten all the words in it and even who it's by. I think it's from the Snowy River, 5 miles from Gundagai. It probably is for the best that I forgot this verse. Instead, I'll play the banjo now, and that is even worse.
Good morning from Mount Gambier in South Australia. I'm very privileged to have my poem, Wombat Save the Day, in the anthology. And I'd like to read my poem out. The inspiration for the poem was watching on TV and reading about how the wombat burrows will use the animals for refuge after the bushfires. I've got a little prop behind me on the birdseed and a little wombat, not a real one, just a toy. Okay, here we go. Wombat Save the Day by Jeannie Axton. Mrs. Wombat first heard the roar. as Mr. Wombat cried at the door, "Wildlife, please, all come inside. Our burrow's the perfect place to hide." In came the lizards one by one. Skinks followed next with their young. A family of bush mice scuttled past, 4 little legs running fast. A wallaby hopped from behind a tree. Asking to enter, he wiggled and squeezed. A snake slithered past, giving all a fright. However, he calmed each with, "I will not bite." King parrots flew in as the fire drew near. The wombat shuffled them to the rear. An owl hooted as she looked for a bed, a soft, cosy place to lay her head. Finally, an echidna came to the door, wanting to know, "Could you fit one more?" He pronounced he may be a little bit prickly, as the smoke outside had made him sickly. The flames burnt through the bush outside. Without these burrows, all could have died. Hooray to the wombats for finding a way to shelter our wildlife and save the day. Thank you.
Hi everyone, Nora Colvin here. Today I'm going to read you my story, Once Upon a Billabong. Once Upon a Billabong is a bush ballad, and it's included in the Share Your Story, Tell 'em They're Dreaming anthology of bush ballads and tall tales from the Australian bush. So my story is about a big bully bullfrog who lives in a billabong way out west, and he's quite mean. But in the end, we frogs teach him that kindness wins out in the end, and that it's the best way. And I'd love to read it for you now, and you can join in with the reading with me if you would like. Once upon a billabong, way out west, sat a great big bullfrog, boasting he was best. Along came another, seeking shelter for the night. Last thing he wanted was a ding-dong fight. "Hey," said the bully frog, puffing out his chest, "you can't sleep here. Find another place to rest." The other one looked sideways, then gave a timid smile. "I'm sure to be no bother. I'll only stay a while." "1 and 1 night only, then you must be on your way. You'll have to find an empty pond, a place where you can stay." "But all the ponds are drying up. The earth is parched and brown." "That's not my concern," said Bully Frog. "Go find yourself a town." And so it happened time again. Travellers asked to stay, but every time, ungraciously, they were rudely sent away. He didn't care their homes were burnt or knocked down to the ground. It wasn't his fault ever, if no other homes were found. "This is my pond only," he bragged and puffed his chest, even if someone challenged and put him to a test. The frog became notorious, the meanest of the mean, and soon they all avoided him. He was left alone to preen. Then giant machines came roaring, tearing up the earth, unwinding coils of black snakes of monumental girth. They sucked up all the water and left the pond so dry that even Bully Bullfrog could only sit and cry. He croaked and croaked and croaked so loud he thought his heart would burst. "Machines don't care or even know which one of you was first." That didn't stop the bully frog raising up a fist. He took a swipe. For all it did, he may as well have missed. Without a drop of water left and nothing else to do, he packed his bags and hit the road, a lonely traveller too. Tired and sore, he came upon somewhere he thought to stay, but each door opened, quickly closed, and he was sent away. "You're not welcome," went the chorus. "You wouldn't let us stay. Now you're the one who's homeless, and we're the ones who say, there's no room here for meanness, and something you will find. Our community thrives on friendship and treating others kind." The bully bullfrog, he hung his head and started heading out. He'd not gone far when he was stopped, when someone gave a shout, "Hey, Bully Frog, you think that you could change your ways today? Could you treat others kindly and in a friendly way?" Now Bully Frog had walked all day, and he was tuckered out. He wanted somewhere he could sleep, that was without a doubt. He nodded yes, but someone said, "I think he might be scheming." Another said, "Nah, he can't stay. Tell him we think he's dreaming." "I promise," said the Bully Frog, "cross my heart and hope to die. Give me a chance and I will do all that I can to try." The others found a comfy spot where Bully Frog could rest. "Thank you," said the Bully Frog. "You really are the best." From that day forth the Bully Frog became one of the team. No more a Bully Frog, he turned into a green. And together all the animals united one for one, until the battle for the bush was over, done and won. I hope you enjoyed my story. Remember, it's just one story from the Tell 'em They're Dreaming anthology. Thanks everyone.